2023. It is our 5:30 public hearing, and we're going to start with our pledge. So if everyone would stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Josh, you want to start? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I want to say good evening and welcome tonight. And thank you all for being here, to having your voices be heard as we talk about Measure 1. This is democracy at its best. So I really want to say thank you. We appreciate having a fairly full hearing room, and we look forward to the evening's events. So with that, I'm going to start with our Attorney Chris Anderson to have you just go through kind of the procedures tonight, and then talk about, we do have people who have signed up for pro and con, and then he can explain how we're going to be doing that tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This meeting is regulated pursuant to RCW 4217A 555, which does establish a general prohibition on elected officials or public employees using their authority or public facilities for the promotion of or opposition to a ballot measure. However, it also provides an explicit exception for action taken at an open public meeting by members of an elected legislative body, elected board, council, or commission of a special purpose district to express a collective decision or to vote upon a motion, proposal, resolution, order, or ordinance, or to support or oppose a ballot proposition, so long as the notice of such meeting includes the title and number of the ballot proposition, and members of the legislative body, board, council, or commission and or members of the public are afforded an approximately equal opportunity for the expression of an opposing view. In order to afford that equal opportunity to the public and to the members of the board, we have structured the meeting this evening to allot equal time for testimony in support and opposition to Measure Number 1. Up to 30 minutes will be provided for public testimony in support of the measure, and up to 30 minutes will be provided for public testimony in opposition to the measure. Likewise, the Board of County Commissioners has allotted up to 10 minutes for members of the board to speak in support of Measure Number 1, and up to 10 minutes for members of the board to speak in opposition to Measure Number 1. Our procedures dictate that preference for public speaking will be given to those who are in person. I believe at last count, 14 individuals had signed up to speak in support of Measure Number 1, and 4 had signed up to speak in opposition to Measure Number 1. With that being said, is there anybody present who did not sign up who wishes to speak this evening? Seeing nobody, Madam Chair, we would then turn to those who are present on the Zoom hearing to raise their hand. We have allotted 2 minutes to each individual who would like to speak, so we can take up to 11 individuals who wish to speak in opposition to Measure Number 1 from Zoom, and up to 1 who wishes to speak in opposition, or in support. Apologies. And if you are on Zoom and would like to speak on Measure Number 1, please raise your hand.
Yeah, raise hand, or if you're on your phone, it is *9. Okay, so we're not seeing anyone else on Zoom. I did see someone else come into the chambers. So we'll do one more call for anyone in the chambers that would like to speak either pro or con. We have room on either sheet. If you would like to come down and sign up, and you just need to let us know pro or con and sign the form. I can't see.
Am I live?
Yes, so we would just need to, in just a second, I'll ask you for your name so we can actually, you'll have to wait in line to have us we're going to put you on the list in just 1 second.
Perfect. I'm going to mute my mic.
Okay. So, Mr. Anderson, we do have someone on Zoom, so if you would, I'm going to let you ask for their name so you can put it on.
Yes, thank you. And so Katie Ward is the name on Zoom. Are you wanting to speak in support or in opposition to measure number 1?
Opposition.
Thank you. All right, and one final call, either in person or on Zoom, to speak either in support or in opposition to measure number 1. Seeing nobody, Madam Chair, we have 14 individuals signed up to speak in support and 6 signed up to speak in opposition.
So you have 3 more. 2 con, 1 pro.
There you go.
That just made that hard. Do I need to cut off the slide for a leak? Okay. It'd been just easy if there was 15 and 15.
Okay, so we have 8 people that have signed up as on the con side, so we're going to go 3 minutes and 45 seconds each. We have 15 people that have signed up on the pro side, so we will stick with our 2 minutes each. As we alternate, I will do 1 con and then 2 pro, and alternate that way to try to keep it as equal as possible. And Commissioner Kearns is going to help me figure that all out as we go along. So thank you. We're going to now do a coin flip to see which one is going to start first, and then we'll start with our presentation after.
So we're going to do heads is pro, cons is tail. I will call it.
And it's heads.
Okay. It is heads.
Okay, so we'll start with the pro when we get to that point. So at this point then, we will have a presentation. So Mr. Sparber, if you'd like to come down, and while you're coming down, I do just want to reiterate our rules of conduct. We have our rules posted there, right by where Mr. Sparber is coming down. But a few that I just want to highlight is that no demonstrations, display banners, signs, or any of that are permitted tonight. No boisterous conduct shall be allowed at any time. No person shall orally initiate charges or complaints against an individual or anyone at the county, employee at the county or the board. So basically just wanting everyone to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you very much. And Mr. Sparber, would you like to give a brief presentation before our public hearing?
Absolutely. Thank you. My name is Mike Sparber. I'm the Senior Director of Law and Justice. And I'm before you today, Commissioners, after nearly a year of hard work and planning, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to present before you and for your consideration the Law and Justice proposal for Spokane County. Before I start, I would like to take the time to thank my team and the effort that they brought forward to help make this possible tonight. the continued support of the CEO, Scott Simmons, my staff assistant, Medea Harris, project manager, Ken Moore, special deputy prosecutor, Jim Amacio, communications director, Pat Bell, public policy director, Jeff McMorris, county architect, Bruce Russell, facilities director, Gail Halbert, data support and statistics through Diane Lindquist, data support from the jail data from Aaron Lind, and the leadership from Detention Services. Our journey developed quite a while ago. Measure One began way back in 2008 with the expert assistance from the following groups: technical assistance from the National Institute of Corrections, Integris Architecture, David Bennett Consulting, Dennett Liebert Consulting, Carter Goebel and Lee, the MacArthur Foundation, the Vera Institute, and JFA. Over the past many years, several project groups and community panels have worked on this proposal. It's an understatement to say that there hasn't been several iterations of this project along the way. We've had the plans and plans on plans have been developed. We've gone from a high level to exceptionally detailed, back to high level, and on and on and on through this whole process. What you have before you tonight is a law and justice proposal that responds to the community needs by providing new revenues to improve public safety, hiring new law enforcement officers, increasing co-deployed teams, and co-deployed teams for a safer Spokane County, expanding behavioral mental health services, along with educational and programming leading to better offender reentries, and cutting down on recidivism, making improvements to the overall justice system, such as judges and courtrooms, prosecutors, public defenders, and therapeutic courts, expanding the downtown jail to a law and justice center, relieving overcrowding, closing and relocating the population from the Geiger facility, and keeping pace with the growing demand of our population for Spokane County. And finally, constructing a new community correction center that we're proud of, with a full range of programming to serve as a function for the courts as a sentencing alternative. So before I conclude, I'd like to say it has been a very gratifying journey going out and meeting with several of the counties, city and county councils, along with community groups. That feedback has been invaluable and validated through our proposals as an appropriate response to the community's needs. Now I'd like to show an educational video produced to help educate the public on Measure One and to help them make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
In December 2022, the Board of County Commissioners of Spokane County adopted a resolution to add Measure Number 1 to the November 7, 2023 general election ballot. Let's talk about how Spokane County intends to use its revenue from Measure Number 1 to address criminal justice, public safety, and behavioral health needs resulting in part from population growth in the region. Measure Number 1 is a law and justice proposal for Spokane County. It would add a new 0.2% sales and use tax on purchases beginning April 1st, 2024 and running through December 31st, 2054. For every $10 spent by residents, visitors, and tourists in Spokane County, an additional 2 cents will be collected. 60% of the collected revenue will be allocated to Spokane County government, and 40% of the collected revenue will be allocated based on population to its cities and towns. Cities and towns can use their share of Measure Number 1 funds to meet local criminal justice, public safety, and behavioral health needs. Why Measure Number 1? Population in Spokane County has been growing rapidly in recent years. As a community grows, so does its needs for criminal justice, public safety, and behavioral health investments. Just like growing populations means a need for more schools, libraries, parks, hospitals, and other public infrastructure. That is true in Spokane County today, where our criminal justice system is facing an overcrowded correctional facility and congested courts. Mental health needs and addiction rates are increasing. Crime rates are also going up. The need for resources to address these community needs is what led to the initiation of Measure Number 1. Let's take these issues one by one. First, let's talk about criminal justice needs in our community. Due to overcrowding and outdated correctional facilities, today nearly 14% of low-level offenders are being booked and immediately released from the Spokane County Jail as a capacity management municipal courts. Law enforcement officers oftentimes wait in long booking queues. So how would Spokane County spend its Measure Number 1 revenues on improvements? To begin with, Spokane County can allocate Measure Number 1 revenues to improve criminal justice facilities and programs at all phases, from inmate booking and detention to release and community reentry. To reduce overcrowding and allow expanded programming, approximately $300 million would be used for constructing new facilities. Spokane County would consolidate inmates from different facilities in a new housing facility and a new community correction center on a central campus. That campus would be known as the Law and Justice Center of Spokane County. Measure Number 1, though, is about more than just new criminal justice facilities. It's about inmate programs like breaking barriers and helping justice-involved individuals successfully re-enter the community. Expanded programming in new classroom spaces for individuals in custody would include drug and alcohol treatment, job and communication skills, anger management, and GED classes. Using revenues provided by Measure Number 1, Spokane County also proposes to make investments in criminal justice system improvements, from courtrooms and judges to prosecutors and public defenders. Plus, Measure Number 1 can fund investments in domestic violence programs and therapeutic or problem-solving courts, like mental health court or veterans court, that allow inmates to obtain treatment and services to address needs that may have contributed to the conduct leading to their arrest in the first place. Furthermore, Measure Number 1 can fund criminal justice reform recommendations from advisory groups like the Spokane Regional Law and Justice Council, made up of subject matter experts and community representatives. That can include smart justice programs aimed at reducing the number of people in custody, such as at-home electronic monitoring, jail diversion approaches, and alternative sentencing options. Moving on to public safety, Measure Number 1 revenues can be used by Spokane County towns and cities to pay for public safety initiatives, such as hiring more law enforcement officers and providing enhanced training. Measure Number 1 can also expand co-deployed behavioral health teams that work with first responders to help provide safe resolutions for people in crisis. These teams help ensure better outcomes for those in crisis, diverting them from being arrested and instead directing them to therapy or services. On behavioral health, Measure Number 1 can fund programs like expanding and enhancing Spokane County's Crisis Stabilization Center, a facility that provides short-term care and intervention for people who are experiencing a behavioral health crisis in lieu of incarceration. This center helps people in crisis. Still have questions? Spokane County officials are attending community meetings leading up to the November 7th, 2023 general election on Measure Number 1 to educate the public about Measure Number 1. For more information, please also visit our website.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Sparber, for taking care of that and for the presentation. Normally, we ask if any of the commissioners have questions, but we'll get to state our thoughts later. So we will go ahead and start with the pro and con. And so I think with having the number of people that we have, we'll do 2 pro and 1 con. And so I'm going to call up those 3 people just so that people are ready. Again, the pro will have 2 minutes. The con will have 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So hopefully the timer will be able to do that for us. So we're starting with Sheriff John Knowles and Jennifer Thomas on the pro side, and then Stephen North on the con side. Ready to start? You get to, if you can state your name and address for the record, and then the 2 minutes will start.
Can I use my work address, please?
You can.
Okay. John Knowles, address is 1100 West Mallon, Spokane, Washington, 99260. So thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. I'll mention you clean up nicely. All of us clean up nicely. Well done. Obviously, I am here to speak pro for Measure 1. I think our community faces a lot of challenges, and to given 2 minutes to speak about everything, I think there's some data I think that is important to share. one of the biggest challenges we face in our community right now is substance abuse. We know we have a huge problem, not only in the general population, but it's one of the biggest crises that's facing our homeless population as well. We know we have to get people into treatment. And if we've learned anything since the Blake decision happened, is that people, unless they're compelled into treatment, likely are not going to take advantage of it. Measure 1 will give us a facility that will allow us to hold people accountable. We can move people into treatment, and we can make sure that there is something waiting for them that is less attractive than going to treatment. That's how we are going to save lives in our community. It's how we're going to make a difference. We know that we have treatment programs and drug courts that are effective in our community. We can expand them with a new facility and with the money generated with Measure 1. We also know that that is something our people in our community wants from us. We want to improve outcomes for offenders, but we want to do it with a community that's safe first. That is our priority. That's why having a jail that has the capacity to have available beds is so important, because it allows us to make sure that our community is safe first and that we have the facilities and the money to provide programming to help offenders get better. I will also say that we need law enforcement. More law enforcement officers equals lower crime rates. It's been researched and studied time and time again, and we certainly need more of those, almost 136 more in Spokane County. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Jennifer Thomas and then Stephen North.
Jennifer Thomas, 1633 East Rockwell Avenue, Spokane, Washington, 99207. I'm ready? Okay. I am here to talk in favor of Measure 1. Opponents of Measure 1 are saying that there is no plan, and that is false. Clearly, we just saw a presentation on it, and you can find the plan in plain sight at SpokaneCounty.org. But what the opponents realize, sadly, is that it doesn't matter what the truth is, it only matters what perception is. And so I would plead with the public to not be fooled by that mistruth. My question to the opposition is, where is their plan for safer communities? Where is their funding stream for safe streets? How do they plan to implement smart justice? How will they fund programs needed to help parolees stabilize and re-enter society? And most importantly, how will justice be served to the victims of crime? Let me again ask, where is the plan to deliver justice for the families, the elderly, the beaten, the robbed, and the raped in Spokane? The answer lies in the space between fair sentences and no consequences, and that's what this plan is. The delivery of justice is personal to me. I have daughters that were victims of unimaginable sex crimes, and the cost to restore my daughters is in the tens of thousands of dollars, and much of that will come out of my own pocket. The cost to restore a family broken by crime is significant. Measure 1 serves all of us. A yes vote funds programs and services and ensures safety both inside and outside of the building. Measure 1 funds justice. We cannot succumb to the paralysis of analysis and spend more time spinning our wheels and arguing over details. It's time to do what is right and vote yes. It's time to fund justice and safety for all.
Thank you. Stephen North.
Okay, it's an honor to be able to come and speak here this evening. My name is Stephen North. I've earned a bachelor's degree in finance and accounting. Additionally, for fun, I took graduate level courses in investment analysis, portfolio management, and advanced auditing techniques, along with cost accounting. Jeff Foxworthy had a TV show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So I'll keep this in fifth grade math. Measure 1 for law and justice is flawed at its best. To raise $1.7 billion at proposed 0.002 rate over 30 years, we need to double the amount of retail sales that are occurring in Spokane County and City. Meaning retail sales would need to be $850 billion over this 30 years. It's not possible. even with inflation. It would take 28.3 years to reach that goal in today's dollars. The $300 million for the new jail at the proposed 60% rate means projected retail sales of $90 billion alone, not including the inflation, the fact that no government agency does fixed price contracts for $300 billion, the cost overruns and other administrative costs would shoot that out of the water. Fifth grade math doesn't support this pipe dream. It's time to just vote this down and work on a real solution. As several city police officers and the sheriff have mentioned, it's a catch and release system because there's no place to put them. As far as the mental health, as Sheriff Knowles was pointing out, per the RCWs, when they pick up people, a danger to themselves or others, they can only be held for 11 hours and have to be released. They're not even off of their drug high yet at that point. That doesn't do any benefit to helping improve the crime rates or anything else in Spokane. Some real solutions need to be thought through at that and then work forward. But financially, this just does not work. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So next I have on the pro side, Larry Haskell and Darren Watkins, and then on the con side, Anton Ballone. Okay, Mr. Haskell, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thanks very much for inviting us here and having these hearings. It's very important to hear the public dialogue, mindful of the fact that I hold a public position, but I'm speaking to you tonight in my own opinion, in my own personal capacity as a resident. My address for that purpose is 1100 West Mallon, Spokane, Washington as well. What I wanted to bring to your attention is the Blueprint for Reform. The Blueprint for Reform originally adopted by the Board of County Commissioners in 2013, and then it was most recently updated by the CJC again in October of 2020. And this is essentially the centerpiece of what the blueprint was all about. Everything else kind of revolved around that. All the other little things that we were going to do revolved around the main centerpiece. It was under Section 5.8, Detention Services, and it talks about how they recommend that it be funded and the various types of capabilities that it have. And it addresses a lot of the needs that, for instance, Ms. Thomas and the sheriff were talking about, and is going to provide multiple levels of security in terms of max, from max all the way down to day reporting and a lot of the other things that we talk about, but there's just not the funding for it in the revenue stream right now. And I know anybody that's thinking they're waiting on the state to take the bull by the horns, if you will, and give us more money for criminal justice in Spokane County, we're on our own. And I might point out that we've also waited a decade already. So the board adopted this either in late 2013 or 2014, and here we are a decade later. And in fact, in the update from the CJC, it basically said that slight progress under this initiative in light of intake and releasing efforts, but much work still to do. I know that a group went out to Multnomah County and took a look at a community correction center and came back glowing with the concept and the services and the various aspects that are provided. I would ask the board to revisit those people that went. I know there's some of them are still with the county. And also, I hope there's money for victims as well as in the criminal justice system. The more crime, the more victims. Ms. Thomas raises a great point. So victim funding as well will be very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Darren Watkins.
My name is Darren Watkins. I live in the city of Spokane, and usually I'm here with the realtors, and yes, they've endorsed Measure 1, but I'm here on my own behalf. I'm here tonight because I have spent a lot of time working on a number of committees and projects, research projects, ranging from criminal justice to homelessness. And I'm here to tell you that this, to date, is a humanitarian issue. both for those inside and outside the facilities. We can talk ad nauseum about how bad things are in the jail, 2 and 3 people in a cell designed for one. But really, you know what you don't see? You don't see the 28 groups I identified in some of these committees that want to offer assistance to those inside the jail cells, everything from GED to job training, addiction counseling, financial advising. And all of those services that the volunteers on the outside want to provide are denied those services on the inside. This really, though, is not about a jail. It's about an entire system. And I have seen with my own eyes the system in Marysville with which many of these components model. And it works very effectively. Why? Because it mirrors the diversion system available with the strength of a law enforcement system. It marries the two together in a way that really does provide a pathway for redemption. And why is that important? The people that we spoke with who had been through those programs, you know the number one word that they said? Hope. It gave them hope. Why? Because oftentimes their decision-making was clouded by narcotics or mental health issues that just weren't addressed. But when this gave the opportunity, the jail cell or a treatment center, it provided the impetus for them to find hope. And it's no surprise we have turned down .03 money. How long have we done that? And yet we lead the nation in property crime and homelessness. Coincidence? It's time to make this right. It's a humanitarian thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anton, thank you.
Hi, my name is Anton, concerned citizen, Spokane. Okay, I think what we need to do, instead of being enemies, you know, like I am opposed to the Measure 1, you know, not because I don't like it, you know, for any other reason other than we need more, how would I say, to be details. You know, it's a lot of money. 60% is a lot, you know, if you be honest about that. And you be a little bit more specific in certain areas, you know, like say, I didn't know, like, since when did mental health became under the police department? You know, this is new to me. Are you saying that Measure 1 covers all the mental health area? I mean, that's the question I have. And but as far as people that are for it, I'm not saying I'm protecting the bad guy out there. Hey, I'm with you guys. If they're bad, get them, put them away. I don't need those. But there are innocent people out there that are unfortunate, sometimes that they're looked at as criminals, you know, instead of being objective, you know, and I'm all for it. If the money is there to help those that fall through the cracks, good. But as far as, how would I say, just kind of like using it for other reasons, no. Because this is the communities, it's for everybody. We shouldn't be at each other's, like say, Democrats and Republicans. Forget that. Let's be people, let's be human beings. Let's care for each other's and have feelings for each other's, okay? That's all I want to say. But for right now, I'm opposed to it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. So next I have Beth Taylor and Mark Howard, and then Brianna Gorder. There we go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Beth Taylor, 19607 South Duncan Road in Spangle. All right, good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Beth Taylor, and I'm a current resident of District 4. My husband and I recently moved from the west side of the state, and my husband now is currently employed with a local law enforcement agency. This local law enforcement agency has been very supportive of our family, and not only are they supportive of our family, but they're also supportive of the officers that are employed within the agency. Not only do they certify, qualify, and help support the law enforcement officers with all of their certifications, but they also provide a value and ethic that is really important to every law enforcement agency officer. They understand the value, that the impact that they have with the individuals that they run across day in and day out. And I can personally say that my husband is one of those, and I'm thankful for a responsible law enforcement officer. One of the things that I wanted to tell the county commissioners is that while we were living on the west side of the state, I served as a service provider. We had this phrase that stuck with me: an ask for help is an ask for help, no matter the circumstances. One specific individual that I worked with had jumped in front of public transit several times to get help with her addiction. She was on countless wait lists to get treatment, but was stuck on the streets until it was her turn. This individual jumped in front of buses multiple times, and every day she was on the street, she was putting her life at risk and countless others. Law enforcement officers feel powerless for this reason. Services are overfull and have run out of options to help people who are asking for help in harmful ways. It wasn't until she came in contact with the correctional department where she found help and services through therapeutic court. One of the examples that is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Howard.
Good evening, I'm Mark Howard. I live in downtown Spokane. First, I'd like to thank you all for the time to make this public comment. I'm going to give you a quick resume. I've lived in Spokane for over 40 years. 22 of those years was serving United States Air Force, and then the other 20 years of my professional experience was with the Spokane Police Department and also security management for Spokane Public Schools and for Providence Healthcare. The reason why I share that is because those experiences working with a variety of people have definitely given me a boots on the ground kind of experience, and how we've seen the changes in criminal behavior in our community. Now, I'm using that as a very general term. The thing is that I found talking to, it's amazing what people will talk to you about when they're in the backseat of your patrol car on the way to jail, because it's non-judgmental a lot of times. And they're like, I had a guy and he said, listen, I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to get cleaned up, and then I'm going to get out, and then I'm going to go right back to my same friends, my same environment. And he's like, how would it be for you if you just had to find all new friends, all new places to live, and that kind of thing? And I'm like, wow, there's a big giant light bulb that went off the top of my head from that, and such a sense of empathy for this person. The other things I kind of determined and learned from this experience is about the have-nots and the will-nots. And I believe that Measure 1 addresses this. The have-nots, the can-nots and the will-nots. The can-nots are those poor individuals that have drug addiction, mental health issues, and all that, and God bless them. Measure 1 will serve those people. And then the will-nots, those are the people that just choose not to abide by the laws of our community, and Measure 1 will provide the facilities to hold those people accountable so that we can get some control over the lawlessness in our community. So I am absolutely in favor of Measure 1, and I hope you consider that in your thoughts tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna Gorder.
My name is Brianna Gorder. I'm from the Spokane Valley. I am also a person who experienced homelessness at 16 years old as a result of my parents being incarcerated. Last month, Sheriff Knowles stated public safety relies on accountability, and I agree with him, and it starts with the elected officials and the people in power. In the last 6 years, there's been lawsuits ranging from $300 to $27 million for misconduct within the jail, sheriff's department, and police force. My concern with the ambiguity of the language in statements such as can be used is that the fund will not be used to rehabilitate individuals that are incarcerated and instead be utilized for mass incarceration. Additionally, my concern is the lack of oversight to prevent misconduct lawsuits from happening and the burden, excuse me, I have a really bad head tremor, burden lying with the taxpayers. I'm also concerned at the county's lack of response to the failing health care currently in place at the jail, and their contracted agency, NAVCare, receiving hundreds of lawsuits throughout the country for malpractice, including one in the county jail for $27 million. I would ask that the county works towards oversight in the criminal justice system and fix those errors within so taxpayers don't have to pay for it. In closing, I'd like to cite a 2021 metadata analysis of 116 studies that found custodial sentences do not prevent reoffending and was shown to increase it. Incarceration does not correct to people, it destabilizes them. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Jim, I think it's Garris, and then Tim Archer. This is on the pro side. Gavris? There you go, Jim Gavris, thank you. And then Tim Archer, and then on the con side will be Sabrina Ryan.
My name is Jim Gavris, and I'm retired military myself. Been in the Air Force for 20 years. And I'm also a recovering alcoholic, and I've been in jail when I was a kid many times, and I came out sober. I've had 40 years sobriety right now. I also worked a little bit as associate counselor back in the 90s for Lakeside Drug and Alcohol Recovery. So with that, I say we've got to get these treatments going for these prisoners, because by piling them up, I speak in simple language, I don't have these big words and everything, but piling up these prisoners in there, to me, is kind of cruelty, and it gives them even a worse frame of mind. That's simple, I know that much. And the thing is, I see, and this is my dream anyways, to get these guys cured, help, wherever they can. You're not going to get 100%, but whatever you take you off the city to where they can be good citizens, the less the people have to work. So like I said, we got a lot of crime and stuff that's going on right now, and that's because they're not getting the proper treatment and stuff like that when they get in jail. I've been there, I've done that, I've been sober now 40 years. So like I said, people that know me way back when I was in jail and stuff like that, and have seen me today, they wouldn't even know who I am. One last thing I like to say is that being a veteran, and all the veterans that fought for this country, this is not what we fought for. So when people thank me for my service, thank me by doing something and keeping the crime off the streets and help the individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Tim Archer.
Sorry, Jimmy, I had to raise it up. My name is Tim Archer, and I served the city of Spokane for 20 years as a firefighter. I was bandaging a lot of broken people who were hurt by criminals. I hate to say a cop had a good point, but he did. We have have-nots and will-nots. If you don't equip the sheriff and Mr. Haskell to protect the innocent from the will-nots, you're not doing your duty. You're not doing what we paid you to do. So I appreciate the work of Mr. Kearns, Ms. Cooney, and Mr. French. You're 10 years too late, but you did it. What I'm asking is Commissioners Jordan and Waldrop to support this measure, not delay it anymore. Do what we need to do to protect the innocent from the will-nots. This is a very responsible measure that does a lot to advocate for the have-nots. I think you've done an outstanding job with that. But what we need right now is for you not to delay justice for the victims and to do your duty to protect them immediately and not quibble over what you think it ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Sabrina Ryan. And I just want to make sure you do have 3 minutes and 45 seconds on the con side, so just so you know.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm not sure that I'll need it. My name is Sabrina Ryan. I am a resident of the Perry District here in Spokane. I am also a former employee of the Bail Project and also worked down at Camp Hope as a peer navigator recently. I am also formerly incarcerated for about 10 years of my life. here in Washington, and I am definitely opposed to this. I think that something that stuck out to me in reading about this is that currently it costs about $126 per day to house somebody in the jail already. How much more is it going to cost if we pass this measure? We build a new jail. How much better can we support these struggling community members outside of a jail setting for that amount? I think that Camp Hope and the Bail Project both showed this community what can be accomplished by organizations having funding and working together to benefit all members of the community. Why would we choose to commit this much of taxpayer money toward carceral systems that have been consistently proven to not only not work at reducing crime and recidivism, but which are shown to be traumatic and destabilizing not only to the incarcerated persons, but to the community at large? I heard the wife of a law enforcement officer say that community-based services are full and therefore jail may be a preferable option. Why would the option not be to reallocate and increase funding to services in the community? I just don't think that this is a good measure. I think that it could have been better written to support the community at large rather than just the folks whose paychecks are going to be affected by whether this passes or not. I hear a lot of support from those folks tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have on the pro side, we have Joel White and then Tim Kinley. And on the con will be April Dickinson.
Good evening. My name is Joel White. I serve as the Executive Officer of the Spokane Home Builders Association. My address is 2310 South Morningside Heights Drive. I'm here on behalf of our 750 members who speak in support of Measure 1. As you guys all know, Spokane's a great place to live, and we have seen an influx of out-of-area home buyers moving into our community over the past few years to take advantage of our high quality of life. Yet the growing levels of crime are now discouraging these buyers from purchasing homes in our community. I'm also informing my members that criminal activity is taxing their businesses as they deal with more theft and vandalism. They're being forced to add costly measures to protect their facilities, vehicles, and inventory, which even if installed, cannot fully protect them from potential losses and expensive repairs. I will not profess to be an expert on how to manage criminal activity, but it does appear that inadequate space and treatment facilities at the existing jail are creating a system where offenders are processed and quickly released. Without assistance and support, they quickly reoffend and start the cycle again. We need to end this cycle and make a significant push to lower our rates of recidivism. Measure 1 provides not only increased capacity at the jail, but provides expanded programming and services to include inmate treatment programs, skills training, behavioral health, release services, and therapeutic case management. These are significant benefits as we do need to find a path for a positive future and career path for the inmates. As you know, we are facing a housing crisis in our community, which has largely been driven by a lack of skilled labor. I feel strongly that this proposal would provide opportunities for programs like our career training program, Frame Your Future, to integrate with skilled counselors at the new facility to train and smoothly foster the inmates into careers in construction or other trades in need of new workers. My association ran a successful carpentry pre-apprenticeship program at the Airway Heights Correction Center for nearly 2 decades. Providing the inmates with a tangible skill and certificate showing their completion of the course provide them with a better path as they transition back into the community. This is a solid investment of resources and has the potential to solve many issues facing the community. Thank you.
Tim Kinley.
Yeah, Tim Kinley. I just really appreciate all the statements that have been made on both sides. Public safety is probably your number one responsibility. Probably instead of saying measure number one, public safety number one. That'd be a good alternative there. But, you know, justice has changed, you know, in the last number of years. Remember all those people that got free because DNA testing and stuff like that, being incarcerated. So being safe in jail is an important thing because there are people who are falsely accused. What this measure does that I see is that it gives options, and options is key to public safety in dealing with people. So some people, yeah, one cell, that's it, you know, you can't be around people. Other, yeah, we got a bunk bed system going on. And others, you can probably put 40 people into a room and be managed just fine, because these are not violent people, but they got to get things figured out and squared away. So that's why I support this, because it gives options, and the building and the type of building you have and the building resources is a key aspect in helping that. So if you got your options in counseling, you got your options in facilities, and how you deal with people, it just makes everything better, everything smoother. It makes it safer for the officers. I think that may be one of the reasons that there is some of this, if there is some of this, officers getting hurt or inmates getting hurt, is because of the type of facility that is there. Yeah, and it will allow for sentencing alternatives. So flexibility, I think, is key, and so that's why I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Next is April Dickinson.
Hi, everybody. I'm April. This is my face. I'm not trying to hide, but I do like to wear my mask. Don't have to wear makeup. I'm the operations director for Asians for Collective Liberation in Spokane. We're a small but mighty nonprofit that centers the power of Asians and Asian Americans to build a just, healthy, and thriving community for all. We strongly oppose Measure 1 because of what we stand for. We envision a Spokane where we can live in community of well-being, safety, and belonging. And you know what's kind of frustrating to me, actually listening to all the testimony, I had a whole thing like written down and prepared, is I don't know when we're gonna get real and start to get to addressing the root cause of why people are on the street, why people are being incarcerated in the first place. Measure 1 doesn't address any of that. And when you say that, you know, criminals or whatever deserve, you know, treatment and deserve options, and this is the humanitarian choice, what else do they deserve? And I'm like being serious, I'm talking to this community of people here who are gathered, right? What else do these folks deserve in our communities? They deserve a place to live, they deserve access to food, they deserve a way to make an income, they deserve a way to care for themselves and their families. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about better jails, nicer police officers. I mean, that would be great. But give me a break. I am so sick of these types of conversations. They're not going to solve the problem. We're going to keep spending more and more money on this. Jails and policing, I don't care if you say that there's reports that say that like law enforcement actually decreases crime. It does not. More police put more people in jail, and now you're saying the jail's too full. Well, good. I guess you did your job very, very well. And I'm very sorry to be like so like riled up here, but I just don't see how this measure is going to help people who are struggling. And now I'll get back to my spiel. When people are struggling, they need their basic needs to be met. And time and again, you know, we were asked what our plan is to help these folks. Organizations like mine have to scrap for funding to be able to provide mental health services to our communities. We have to piece together tiny little grants to be able to do that. If you're, you know, Spokane prides itself on being a taxpayer-friendly community that doesn't want to raise your taxes. Well, guess what? Now they do. They do want to raise your taxes to build a jail. That's really nice. I would like to use that tax money to do things like provide accessible housing that is stable and secure for people to store their belongings, to go out and get the treatment that they deserve from a community-based organization that is well-funded, that doesn't have to scrape and put together little tiny pieces of funding from all over the place. That would be a really great strategy to keeping people off of the streets and to get the treatment and care that they deserve. We expect our county commissioners to be trusted stewards of our tax dollars, but building a new jail is an incredible waste of our money. Let's see, I said all this stuff already. Okay, yeah. So I guess all in all, I just want to say that we at ACL Spokane, we strongly urge our county commissioners to stand in solidarity with communities and to oppose Measure 1. Thank you.
Thank you. So next I have Kelly Cruz and then Jenny Graham, and then on Zoom will be Katie Ward after that.
Good evening, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. Just a little FYI, I worked with Mike Sparber, the previous sheriff, a decade ago on a jail. And Mike, I understand that we would have a less amount of recidivism in this community had we gone forward with that project. Unfortunately, it did not pass. I support Proposition 1 because it will mean improved safety in the community. When I say that, I invite any of you to visit an ER room any given night, particularly on a Friday or Saturday night, and see what officers bring in, people who need medical attention, but people in the hospital can't get next to them till they come down off their high or till they're medicated to the point where they can be worked on. This proposal will create a new intake system where the officer can bring a person into the intake center. They can be evaluated for a severe mental health issue or drug issue. And unfortunately, in today's world, those two things collide a lot. And it's hard to help those folks till they get medicated to the point where they can become stabilized. So I see that as a great opportunity in this community to reduce that and improve public safety. The other side of this that's not been talked about is the huge economic impact this jail system or this public safety will have in construction jobs and good paying jobs for the community. So I remind you folks that are opposed to this, you're opposed to better improved public safety and better jobs in the community. And I hope that you all take me up on the ER visit and talk to people in those ER rooms and ask them about their experience. Thank you.
Next is Jenny Graham.
Hello, I'm State Representative Jenny Graham, and I am here representing myself as a private citizen. I've grown up in Washington State and raised my family in Spokane, Washington. It is not the place that we raised our family. I would love to be able to pay it forward and see Spokane become a safe place again for families and businesses. In the work that I do, I have traveled to tour different prisons, jails, actually leave again tomorrow to go visit another one. So I care very much about this issue. I am somebody that supports balance in our justice system, which we don't have right now. We must have balance for the individuals that, for whatever reason, are committing these crimes, whether it's for drugs or just because, unfortunately, we do have cruel people in this world that enjoy harming other people. So there's that issue, but we also have the other side that's really not being talked about tonight, which is the victim side. I can tell you at the state level, there is so much money that is going out to help the people that are incarcerated get back on their feet again and get their lives back and get a college education. But on the flip side, there's not very much help for that crime victim that gets stabbed or gets beaten to within an inch of their life or has their business continually windows broken, vandalism that comes out of their pocket. There's not very much help for them. And I fear what it is that I'm seeing at the level that I'm at. And because I'm somebody that gets out, and I will strike up a conversation with a stranger, that if we do not uphold the state constitution, which says you must advocate for the criminal and the victim equally, which is not happening, my fear is that we're already seeing people not call 911 because we're the last in the nation for police officers to respond to that 911 call. Street justice is my concern.
Thank you. Next on Zoom, we had Katie Ward. And Katie, you'll have 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the beep.
Hopefully I won't take 3 minutes. So here we go. On July 28th, 2023, a federal judge of the DOJ fined Washington State $100 million of taxpayer dollars for failing to provide adequate care to inmates needing mental health care, and those vulnerable inmates are forced into excessive wait times, needing care while in jail. To quote Christopher Carney of the Disability Rights Washington, "We just keep throwing away resources and causing harm, trying the wrong solutions," Carney said in a release. "If what we want is to save lives and improve public safety, we know arrest and competency services are not the way to get there. Our clients need homes and help, not more punishment." Personally, I would like to address the mother who had the unfortunate event of her daughters being a victim. But I would also, in that moment, I'm apologizing for that she even had to go through that, but I have to say that I am envious of the luxury of justice. Because as a BIPOC woman with BIPOC children who have had numerous injustices, I have yet to see justice for my family in Spokane County. Thank you.
Thank you. So next I have Curtis Graham, and then Robin Ball, and then Natasha Hill.
Hi, thank you for hearing me. My name's Curtis Graham. I live in Spokane. I want to say how many victims of crimes fall through the cracks because offenders are not being held in our jails due to a lack of room and space and adequate services. The last time I checked, people in jail get 3 square meals, they get a roof over their head, medical care, sometimes educations, and even TV. In April, a year and a half ago, my truck was stolen, and due to the quick actions of a city cop, my truck got found with the thief in it. I had pulled over to help a stranded motorist with my key in the car and the hazard lights blinking, and I was in the front of their car helping them, and this guy jumped out of a pickup, jumped my truck, and drove off. Keys in it. I got my truck back, missing a $2,000 canopy and about $3,000 worth of goods in it. In fact, just today I had to go spend $40 because I'm going hunting this weekend, and some of my hunting equipment that was in one of my totes in my truck was gone. So how much is this jail worth to me? Well, I lost over $4,000. The person who stole my truck was held in jail after he was arrested with my truck because he had 2 counts of criminal vehicle theft, but they call it prowling, vehicle prowling. He had a count of racketeering and a count of money laundering in Spokane. In Tri-Cities, he had 4 charges, and in Montana, he had a big one. The prosecuting attorney that prosecuted him with the plea bargain told me, don't worry about it. He's going to do at least another year in Spokane with time served. He's going to go to Tri-Cities to do about 1.5 years, and then he's going to Montana to do up to 4 years. So this guy had gone from city to city to city committing crimes, getting out of jail without being held, and he finally got caught and got held. This is a good measure. And I did the math, this fancy math guy over here, Nick, $25,000 would cost me $50. Who cares?
Thank you. Robin Ball.
Good evening. Thanks for holding this event this evening. I first want to say I do not have a paycheck that's tied to this measure. Quite the opposite. I'm a taxpayer in Spokane County, so I expect it's going to cost me some money, but it's time we do it. We have got to get control of what's happening on our streets here in Spokane County. Clean, safe cities bring healthy businesses, better activities for community members to enjoy without fearing for their lives. It is critical that we get control of the theft issues with our retailers. That's costing My understanding in Spokane County alone, Walmart is losing $1 million a year in theft per store in Spokane County. Now, I know there's a number of Walmarts in Spokane County, but I don't see this as taking services out of the committee or out of the community. I see it as enhancing what we already have. And there are a lot of services that if you need mental health counseling, I worked the event at the convention center last week, and there were people who were coming up to us, and we're not a community individual service provider, the volunteer work that I do, they're coming up to us saying, behavioral health can't help me, and Frontier Health, do you know anybody who can help me? I just need some help. And this is 200 vendors in the convention center who are not there or able to help these people. So I see this as something filling in where we don't have this now. It's community involvement. It's time we fund the jail. We've got to get criminals off the street. But this isn't just about criminals. It's about people needing assistance. And if we don't get them into a location where they can get that help, then we're not going to be able to get them. Do you walk down the street and say, hey, do you need help? I know somebody over here who can help you. That isn't the way the community works or the society works. The commissioners are responsible for this overall big tent picture, and if you fund law enforcement, you have to fund the judicial system. Thank you.
Thank you. Natasha Hill.
I get the 345.
Yes, you get the 340.
All right, well, thank you. I'm also here, Natasha Hill, in my individual capacity as a taxpayer, as a business owner. I have my own law practice. I'm also have served this community in many ways. Oh, don't want to forget that I am also a member of the Realtors Association here in Spokane. Born and raised, I've served this community both on Spokane County's redistricting to bring the representation that this growing county deserves. I also serve on many nonprofit boards here, which makes me very proud because I think there's a lot of hope and opportunity to, whether it's through tax dollars or other spending and funding opportunities, to bring the services and address the root causes of why we need to incarcerate people, why people are on the streets and creating an unhealthy place for Spokane. I think a lot of us, and I don't think anybody's come up here and not said that they want a healthier, safer Spokane. So I'm asking you guys to reject this. City Council did this, and one of the things we heard is who they went and spoke to in terms of holding public hearings, and it was really disappointing. It was a bunch of city councils, government, city officials, it was the realtors, the builders, and it was the guild, the law enforcement folks. And then when you follow the money of where those donors, those folks who are involved in those organizations, where their donor dollars go, they go to the people who support them. And so when we look at the people who support Measure 1 and where that money goes, yeah, there's some service providers who support that too. There's a lot of money off of poverty. People make a lot of money off of poverty. And growing up in Spokane and watching the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and there be an even bigger divide from where I came from on the north side, growing up in Hilliard, to where I can say I proudly reside on the South Hill. This was unimaginable, and now it's so unobtainable for people like me, especially people of color, especially women of color. God forbid we bear that child. We are not supporting people of this community. We are not addressing the root causes. And building bigger jails is not going to do anything other than incarcerate folks. It does not reduce recidivism. We've heard from people in this community. We've heard from experts. You have data that says there's no reason to support this. And why would this be pushed through before our new commissioners took their seats? Aren't we about representation? Don't we want to hear from people? So why during public hearings is it only being solicited to certain stakeholders and not everyone? I know what it's like to be an unknown quantity at the table, an anomaly, one of so few seats at the table in a place where they think one is enough, where they tokenize and keep the people with the lived experience that they could be learning from, so we could have a better Spokane for everyone and not just the few who are already succeeding. There's real cost to this community. We've heard about the lawsuits, the monies that have been lost. Spokane writes blank checks to the builders and contractors and law enforcement. 70% of our budget already goes there. It's a black hole. We're not getting the results, and we're not even requiring the data to show that they can get us where they need to go in the next 30 years that this tax is planned for. $1.7 billion, 60% of that going to a city where we have a mayor and a prosecutor who are perpetuating racism and hate in our community, attending white national Christian events and pretending like we don't know. All the orgs I'm a member of know. We knew before it happened. It didn't have nothing to do with them fires. But we're treated as we're ignorant, and there's no accountability. So what did we do? We forced accountability, didn't we? We petitioned with the court to make sure that the jails was put in this ballot measure so they can't hide what these dollars are really for. We have instances showing up in the news just here recently of an officer bloodying a 60-year-old man parked lawfully for a civil, not a criminal offense, and they're continuing to criminalize mental health and homelessness. The dollars, we know where they need to go. No on Measure 1.
Thank you. So we have Janelle Simpson on the pro side, and then I did have a name that was doubled up on the con side. So I will ask if there's anyone else on the con side that would like to speak that has not put their name forward. Not seeing anyone.
Hi, I'm Janelle Simpson. I'm a Spokane resident. I kind of want to change the speed here. This isn't about race. This isn't about what we deserve. We all can earn what we need. My plight is what resonated with me. I just lost my stepson 6 weeks ago, and he had mental health issues. We tried and tried and tried to get him into places here. Beds got given away because they're overcrowded. We called the police, and it's not the police's fault. I support the police 100%, but we called the police to put him on a 72-hour hold, and they couldn't do it. It was 11 hours, and he got released. We didn't realize he had mental issues until it was too late, and he committed suicide. So I support this measure. If not, the incarceration crap can go away. But the mental health, I think if we back up and we all act human, it's not about color, it's not about monetary status, where you live, where you don't live, it's about being human. And if we can get to the head of this problem, it'll never go away, I realize that. But if we can help 50% of the people so they don't have to be incarcerated, so they can get help, because there was no help for my stepson. We had nowhere to go, and he ended up dead. So that is my plea to support measure number 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the people that have signed up, that we have signed up tonight. So at this time, what we'll be doing is before a motion's made, then the commissioners will have 10 minutes on the pro side and 10 minutes on the con side. We have already pre-talked to the commissioners that Commissioner French will go first, and we'll have 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Commissioner Waldrop will go next for 5 minutes. Just making sure I've got all my numbers right here. Commissioner Kearns, and then Commissioner Jordan, and then I as the chair will finish. So Commissioner French, we will, once you start talking, we will start your 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, and can you hear me okay, Madam Chair?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. My entire life has been spent in defending my country, my community, and my neighborhood, whether it was as a U.S. Marine, a neighborhood leader, or as a member of the city or county government. My number one priority has been public safety, the safety of you and your family. As your county commissioner, I've reached out to community leaders across the country to see and learn what programs and initiatives have been successful to create safe communities. The one consistent message has been accountability and responsibility, and that can only come with an empty jail cell. You must have a consequence for bad behavior, and that is a jail cell. Too many times we do not have that empty cell. It is common knowledge, even with the criminal element, they know that we do not have enough room in the jail to hold people accountable for bad behavior. The empty jail cell, however, is just one part of the criminal justice system and what Measure 1 does to provide funding to make improvements to the entire system. Law enforcement officers, the courts, prosecutors, public defenders, and programs to assist folks to get out of a life of crime. Restorative justice programs to address behavioral issues, education issues, mental health issues, skills training and counseling, so that folks that encounter the criminal justice system because they feel they are out of options have a path forward that will provide them a pathway for success. That is the why for Measure 1, and the video does a great job of describing that. So why is there opposition? We have a plan to move forward that includes facilities and programs. The opposition wants to defund the police and adopt programs that have failed in communities like Seattle, LA, Portland, Chicago, San Francisco, and too many others to list right now. So they say no to a new jail. This is not a new jail. It's an existing jail that needs to be ended. There has been a jail on the county campus since 1898, 125 years. A jail in this location will hurt development on the bank is one of the things that we hear. Well, Kendall Yards, Podium, Stadium 1, and all the other developments came after the jail has been here since 1898. Others say, build it on property next to Geiger facility. The Geiger facility is an interim use, and we can be kicked off of that property by the FAA at any time because it's a non-nautical use. Build it on the West Plains, some say. Not in my backyard. Well, this would expand the construction budget by tens of millions of dollars to build 2 kitchens, 2 laundry rooms, courtrooms, and other facilities to support 2 locations. Plus, it puts our police officers and deputies into an expensive taxi driver status instead of being on our streets to protect you in your neighborhoods. The same group that opposes Proposition 1 opposes hope. They want to put drug users and dealers in the parks next to your kids, rapists and abusers of women and children next to your kids' school ground and daycare. Look at what Lisa Brown and her supporters did in the West Hills neighborhood. Finally, an unsafe city is bad for business. Look at the major retailers closing stores in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and across the country. I support Measure 1, and I hope that you will too.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Next, Commissioner Waldron.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciated hearing from everyone tonight, and I think I hear a lot of actually common themes in the room around wanting more behavioral health care, wanting more safety for our community, wanting investments in services. So, I'm hopeful when I hear from all of you here, and hopefully we'll have more hearings. It's great to have a full house at the County Commissioner hearing room. So I look forward to having you come back and give input into more issues here at the county. I want to thank our county employees, especially those who work in law enforcement and in our jails. It's not an easy job, and I appreciate seeing some of our jail staff here tonight. And I appreciate the work they've done to it's difficult work, and I know we do need to do better. We need a better system for everyone, including those who work here at the county. So as a new commissioner, I can't speak. This is my first year, and I'm happy to be here and being able to bring a voice to county residents here. I can't speak to the past and why previous boards didn't make investments in the criminal justice system, but I do believe we need to. And while I remain opposed to building an entirely new jail facility, which I believe now is off the table, which is good news, I agree we need to close Geiger. We need to replace those beds. It's an aging facility. We need to do better. We need a better booking area at the county. And I also believe we desperately need to make investments in services behavioral health care system reforms that were mentioned earlier tonight, like in the blueprint for reform that our prosecutor mentioned. But the current Measure 1 proposal, I just can't support it. And it's a huge $1.7 billion tax proposal, one of the biggest I've seen in my years of service here in the city and the county. And my biggest concern is there's just not specifics on how the dollars will be spent. And I do believe details matter. They matter to me, and they matter to voters and to all of our residents. It's a proposal without a clear roadmap. I'll speak to that a little bit more. At the heart of the proposal are really two new jail facilities. And I'm concerned about the high cost of those facilities, up to $540 million, maybe more, maybe less, we don't know. I appreciate the analysis that's been done to date, but I think we need to do better to really understand, do we need that many jail beds? It's based on historical numbers. So really this whole measure is based on the past. And I would like to see a measure that's really based on what do we want to see different in our criminal justice system in the future. But when the current facilities are based on historical numbers of people incarcerated, I would love to see the number of people incarcerated go down in our community. I think we should start with what are the programs and services that actually have been proven to prevent and reduce incarceration, figure out the cost of those programs, and then we can determine if we need facilities and how many beds based on that. So I think it's kind of backwards, the way we've started with the facilities, and we'll figure out the programs later. So I do want to see more independent analysis of how we've done our projections for the jail. The need to right-size the facility is critical. My experience with past bonds and measures, I worked on the STA ballot measures back in 2016 and 17. When I was a city council member, we worked on many ballot measures for streets and parks. All of those measures had sometimes a year worth of community input, strategy, specific streets, specific parts, prioritized investments. And you couldn't fund everything. Right now, Measure 1 has a laundry list of things that could be funded. And people have asked me, community members in the media, well, what will Measure 1 do? What will it fund? And I can't answer that question. I don't know if it will be spent on behavioral health and how much. I don't know about how much will be spent on diversion programs. Will we need more judges? Those are all things that have been discussed, but I can't tell you today if those will be funded or not. So those are some of my biggest concerns. Details matter. How your tax dollars are spent matter. And I do believe we can come together to build a better system and a better measure that details those things out for our community, where we can come together around many of the issues we talked about tonight and get to a successful measure. So I'm going to vote no on the resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Kearns.
So I hear concerns about crime everywhere I go around the county. People are tired of being victimized. People are tired of the revolving door that we have on our current jail facility because of capacity. We know crime is rising. We know especially violent crimes are on the rise. We know the courts are congested. We know the jail is overcrowded and outdated. It's a facility that is as old as I am. From the day it opened, it has remained open 24/7, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. There is an urgent need for Measure 1. We have put forth a proposal that will address the issues that our community is facing. Over the last 10 months, we have been focused on educating the public. We have gone to many community events. A lot of those have been city council meetings, which are publicly noticed meetings that are open to every single individual that resides in this community. Tonight was our opportunity to hear from Spokane County residents and to share with you where we stand on Measure 1 and what the facts are on Measure 1, which quite frankly is in stark contrast to what happened last night at the Spokane City Council. State law defines how these dollars can be spent. Criminal justice, public safety, behavioral health. That is what these dollars must be spent on. We have a detailed plan. We watched a 5-minute video at the start here. Many of you are holding this document right now that lays out in greater detail what the plan is. We have been very upfront from the start of this entire process that this plan does include increasing capacity in our jail. That we have not hidden that at all. Back in December when this was put on the ballot, those were my remarks, that this would include additional capacity in our jail. There has been no attempt to hide that. You can go back and see multiple interviews that I've given on camera or that I have spoken with our newspaper reporters. We have not tried to hide that fact, even though there are people out there trying to tell you that we have. As we talk about programming and additional detail, again, the list that many of you are holding right now: programming, job readiness and job skills training, communication skills, anger management classes, parenting classes, GED preparation classes, drug and alcohol treatment. It will be tailored to the needs of the individual inmates that are in our jail, which is another thing I want to highlight. Jail. This is not a prison. I have continued to see that confusion that people are saying that we are going to build a new prison. This is not a prison. This is a jail. These are for individuals that if they are sentenced is less than a year. But I just want to say the opposition to this measure has been spreading a lot of misinformation. And quite frankly, at best, it is willful ignorance. At worst, it is intentionally misleading voters.
Thank you. Commissioner Jordan, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to thank all the community members who've taken the time to speak with us tonight and to share your views on all sides of this important conversation. I want to start a little different approach with what is not in dispute today. What do we all agree on? First of all, we love Spokane County. I truly believe we genuinely want to see a safer community, each of us up here. Personally, before running for office, I handled over 400 cases of child abuse and neglect here in Spokane as an assistant attorney general, working with our law enforcement, social workers, and courts to keep kids safe, hold people accountable, and help vulnerable families get access to treatment and heal. We all care about public safety. We agree on this board there are significant need for investments across our criminal justice system, including to address aging facilities, and we heard a lot about the needs tonight. I also think each of us up here is grateful for the county staff who spent a lot of time working on this project and have brought good ideas to the table worth considering. We do have a difference of opinion on whether Measure 1 in its current form is the detailed, well-formed, carefully budgeted plan that voters deserve to address these real challenges and to justify a $1.7 billion tax increase. Since taking office, I've worked to be patient, to be open-minded and constructive on this issue. But as the plan stands today, I do not believe this measure deserves your vote. Measure 1 is one of the largest proposed tax increases in Spokane County history, and voters deserve to know what they're buying for $1.7 billion. The current plan lacks specific details and clear priorities. Other than adding 2 new downtown jail facilities for about $540 million, over $1 million per new cell, there are not clearly identified and budgeted priorities for how local governments will spend the remaining $1.1 billion in new taxes. That is the definition of a blank check. Saying that we have to spend the money on generic categories under the law is like a school district asking for a tax increase simply promising to spend the money on education. It's not good enough. It's fair to ask for more detail. And we should collaborate with cities and towns on shared priorities. In 2018, we had about 1,000 inmates in our jail. In July of 2019, we had 945. Yesterday, we had 830. And so while parts of our jail are overcrowded, especially downtown, we are struggling to recruit, and we routinely have dozens of vacant but funded corrections officer positions. Wings of Geiger are closed due to lack of staffing. This is why I believe our corrections officers should have been at the table from day one in the planning of this ballot measure. But the leadership of Local 492, our corrections officers union, wrote us a letter in July asking for us to delay Measure 1 to give more time for proper planning and community input. Commissioner Waldrop and I asked for the same with specific actions to improve this plan, and I wish we had done so. I often hear Measure 1 funds can be used for X, Y, or Z, but voters deserve a reasonably clear answer. What will they be used for? I've provided lots of ideas of how we could invest, not just in buildings, but to reduce recidivism by addressing the issues we heard about today: drug addiction, mental illness, preventing crime, improving our court systems. We could staff up our mental health responders, expand drug court, therapeutic courts, grow our crisis stabilization facility, etc. But voters deserve to know which of these programs are actually in the plan. How much does any of it cost, and can we actually deliver so that we're doing more than giving people false hope? I have heard that we have time to figure out the details after November, but I just think that's backwards. We understand that plans may change, but we still need to have one. Finally, we've heard that good planning is expensive, but I would just remind folks that the county did spend $200,000 on a public relations campaign to educate you on Measure 1. We should have started by listening to community voices and spending those dollars developing a detailed balanced plan in the first place. To earn confidence, a measure like this needs several key ingredients: community input, active engagement with stakeholders. We need a racial equity assessment to inform our efforts, clear priorities and reforms, detailed budgets, and until that work is done, I must respectfully oppose Measure 1. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will try to stick to about 3 minutes, since my other commissioners went a little over ahead of me, so we'll see if I can do that. We need to do better. We truly do. What I'm hearing in the community is that no one disagrees that we need a new facility, that the current facility isn't where it should be today. I'm president of our Washington Association of Counties. As I go around to the counties in the rest of the state of Washington, this is happening in many counties. In the early 80s, the state came through and helped fund the jails at that time to help build them. They're outdated. They're not working. And so we're seeing this in Whatcom County, we're seeing in Clark County, we're seeing in Asotin County, we're seeing in Garfield County, Stevens County, and here in Spokane County, and those are just some of them. The red light status that we have in our jail, so our new booking center that we talk about, everyone agrees we need a new booking center. Having a red light status in our jail where the officers have to wait in line for up to 3 hours or longer to be able to get somebody into our system because they've got to wait for somebody to come out is not okay. We've got to do better. We look at this as having a maximum, which is what our current jail is, a medium and a low security, which are the new 2 facilities. And as one of the gentlemen said, we need to have groups be able to come in and help the people that are in our system. To do that, we have to have the space. We need to do that, and we need to do better. Upstream, we're spending money on our student wellness program. So we are looking at doing what we can to help our students at the high school level, at the sophomore year, to get services that they need so they don't get into our system. We've invested in Launch Northwest, so we can provide hope and opportunity to kids that are that don't have the funds to go to a post-secondary education, so that those kids have that hope and opportunity to do that. That is why we put investments in those programs, because it's not just about what's happening today, but it's also about what's happening upstream. And so we're already doing those investments, but we need to do better with what is going on today in our criminal justice system. Our Mental Health Crisis Stabilization Center, we're going to have our 2-year anniversary. That has the diversion program that has just happened over the last 2 years. But even though we have that program in place, it's not reducing the people that are in our jail. Those are the programs that our Smart Justice was looking at to see that we'd have those reduction in beds. But it's not working. We still have an increased population from the time that we built this facility in the 80s to where we're at today. Just like in a school district where you have to build more schools to handle the increased population growth, this is a capital facility just like that. So we need to do better. I will be supporting this measure, and ultimately it will be up to the voters to decide and make the community's collective voice heard. We look forward to the voters having their say in November. And again, today I'll be supporting this measure. So I believe that is the end of our testimony up here. I think I kept it a little shorter, hopefully, instead of a little over. So with that, then, I will look to my fellow commissioners for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass a resolution in the matter of expressing a collective decision or voting on a motion to support Measure 1 entitled Spokane County 0.2% Sales and Use Tax for Criminal Justice, Public Safety, Correctional Infrastructure, and Behavioral Health Purposes to be considered by the voters at the general election on November 7th, 2023.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Since we've already had our discussion, we won't do any further discussion at this point. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 3-2. I want to say thank you to everybody for coming down and having your voices heard. Truly appreciate it. So thank you. It's been a long evening. And again, we really appreciate everybody, your voices, and have a nice evening.